Yes, nice, man. Okay, so you did the two hackathons, and your last hackathon was in your senior year.
That was we went back the senior year, but like we didn't win that year, so
Okay,
we
gotcha,
didn't place.
gotcha.
Actually, I don't think we submitted anything. I don't think we had any ideas, but it was probably my junior year and the year before I go into it, so like sophomore esque.
Gotcha. Okay, so walk me through like what graduating looked like for you, like getting a job and all that jazz.
Graduating and getting a job looked like for me, I was very active in clubs and I still encourage it to this day. You should be active in clubs.
Nice.
If you go to school on campus and you're not using that network, you're basically wasting your money.
Yeah.
So I was active in clubs. One club I was in was the National Society of Black Engineers.
Nice.
I love that club. It's the reason I have a job today.
Yeah.
So they have a national convention, and I knew my senior year, like they went last year, so they went my junior year, but I didn't go because wasn't that knowledgeable on it,
Yeah.
or I didn't know the value.
Hey, what's up, fam? This is Sar Levy, host of Africans in Tech, where we're building bridges and shaping futures in tech. On our episode today, we got Reginald Keys or Keyshawn. I pinged bro on Instagram. Actually, I think my assistant, Kadiatu, pinged him initially. And then after that, I looked through his profile. I was like, yeah, dude's doing some really good things, man. So I wanted to have him come through, and he agreed. And welcome, bro.
Hello, how you doing?
Doing good, man. So what we typically do is I just have, people introduce themselves, nothing super technical, just, a little bit about who you are, where you're from, and we'll get into it, man.
Okay, my name is Reginald Keyshawn Billups, Tech Key on Instagram. I have a bachelor's in computer science from Kennesaw State University, and I'm from around the Latonia, Rockdale area. And yeah, I'm 23 years old.
Yeah, young boy, man. Did you ever always grow up thinking that you're going to be in tech, bro?
I didn't really consider career until about graduating high school,
Okay.
but I would say I was bred to go into tech because
Okay.
my father was into IT
Gotcha.
and always having computers and
Okay.
whatnot. So
What'd your dad do?
um IT consultant or IT director for a company. It's called Carter Brothers.
Okay.
So I can't tell you exactly what he did, but
Yeah.
that's like the general
Gotcha.
title.
Gotcha. Is he still working?
Yes, but he does a little bit different. He does two things. He consults and has another job as well. So
Gotcha. And then what about your mom?
my mom is a data analyst right now.
Okay.
She got into tech probably later.
Okay.
But yeah, that's
Yeah.
what I'm saying.
Bro, you're like bred into tech because of that.
Yeah, for sure,
Yeah.
sure.
Cool. And then what high school did you go to?
I went to Salem High School in Rockdale County.
Okay. That's in Georgia.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. My Georgia geographics isn't that good. Okay. And then you went to Kennesaw. Okay. So when you went to Kennesaw, you went initially for computer science, or did you have some other?
So I went into Kennesaw State as a computer science major, and I said I was never gonna switch. Like no matter how hard it got, no matter how many times I, withdrew without failing or failed a class.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I was not changing.
Dope.
So
Yeah. No, that's dope that you're committed to that, man. Throughout like your tenure there at Kennesaw, did you think about like what specifically you wanted to do in the tech space?
I knew I wanted to be a software engineer. I knew that was kind of the pipeline.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't pick computer science to be a software engineer. But once I was computer science, I'm like, oh, this is real life. Like you have to, I'm not going to lie. It takes a minute for young boys to realize life is real. Once I realized that I could be a software engineer from this, that's kind of what I went down the path of.
Dope, man. Did you do any like internships or anything in school?
I was able to do some work for a small company, make a website, that type stuff. But most of my experience comes from hackathons, and I was able to brag on them because I was able to win.
Okay.
So
nice. Talk about hackathons. What are those?
A hackathon is a competition held, and you basically get a technical problem, and you have to create a technical solution. You have about 48 hours, generally, depending if it's like a school one. You have about 48 hours, and you get paired with maybe two people, or it could be a two-man team. and you work to create a creative solution, the best creative solution. When I did it, in the second one I did, it was about 60 teams, and we were able to take second place with I think we had a gas prepay app demo. So
Nice.
yeah, we had to display the code and show how it worked and how it solved the problem.
Nice, man. Did you come up with the idea, or did your friend or your partner?
I'm gonna say me. I'm pretty sure it was me. I'm pretty sure it was me, but I'm not gonna like take all the credit because I'm not like I'm a back-end engineer, and he for sure made it look presentable.
Gotcha.
So
like the UI and all that stuff. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool, man. So you just mentioned something I think that's really important: front end versus back end. Did you have a preference in terms of like which way you wanted to go?
So it was actually made a video about this recently, but I learned I was a back-end engineer during those hackathons because I remember putting together the solution with him in like Uri's and Java FX, but Java as the language. And essentially I created it or I was making it work, but the output, it didn't look that good. Like there was no like spacing for real. There was no color scheme. It just worked. So that's kind of where I learned like, oh, I don't really care for the CSS and making things look pretty.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I mean back in I would say probably undergrad, I used to do like CSS and like, HTML stuff, just to kind of, do some stuff. And I thought I was like really fancy then.
And what year was that?
Man, bro, you date me, bro. So 2006, because I went to University of Maryland in 2005. I graduated in 2003. I'm an old head, bro. But yeah, 2005, I started doing some work around there. And then, like, I don't know if you had the same experience, but for me, no, you wouldn't have because your parents are already in tech. But for me, being the one person that used to know technology a little bit, I was already deemed like the tech, specialist. And because of that, I had to learn how to like build websites and how to do like some basic stuff.
Okay.
But
did you build websites for money?
No, it's just for family.
Okay.
Yeah, because they're like, hey, my son knows computer. He can do these things. So as I was building these things, I learned a lot, but I honestly didn't think I was like a, engineering, anything like that. It was just more of something I was doing just for family and for fun. And I went to, I think we talked about this upstairs, I went to school for kines for my undergrad and then my master's in cardiopulmonary. I think I was going to be this big shot doctor, which didn't turn out that way. But I think for anyone, the reason I'm saying this, who started out, in a certain path, there's always ways for you to pivot, if you want to get into tech space. So
can I ask you this? I feel like I actually hung out with Techie Chris. I think you guys would be a good connection. But he has like African descent. And he said he was going to go be a doctor, but he kind of pivoted. So like, it seems like there's a strong culture that you guys have to push towards engineers and doctors.
Yeah.
So fair enough. That's interesting.
Yeah, it is, man. I made this post maybe when I initially started the pod. Like a lot of African cultures in the West, it could be the same throughout the continent, but in the West, I know specifically, there's this big push to be like nurses initially, doctors, lawyers, and then engineers in terms of like a structural mechanical type engineers, but never from a, systems or technical engineer. Like that wasn't like the push then. But with the, way society's trending now, like being more digital space, now it's like a respectable thing. So for me growing up, it was very different. So, but yeah, man. So, all right, you did the hackathon, and what year was this?
Okay, I did two. One in 2022, spring 2022.
Okay.
And then came back for the fall 2022 and took second place in both.
Nice, bro. Did you guys win anything from that?
Yeah, we won a gift card, and you basically get an automatic interview.
Nice.
So that's really the benefit. You get an automatic interview, and you it looks really good on your resume, especially as a computer science major. But Assurant was the company sponsoring. I didn't actually get the job, but it kind of prepped me
Yeah.
to keep going. So yeah.
Okay. What was the interview for? Was it a software engineer?
It was close. It was probably more systems. I know it was. I would have interacted more with hardware, but there would have been some software aspect. I can't remember the exact title though.
Gotcha. I'm glad you actually brought that point up because it falls in line with what I was thinking too. Difference between a software engineer, software developer, software architect. What I guess what are your thoughts on that?
Okay, so I will say this. I've only been a software engineer for 2 years, so I'm still learning the field.
No worries.
But how I would see it is, thinking from the senior dev perspectives that work at my job, they may outline the technologies that we're gonna use, and then maybe give a guide. I don't know for sure. But maybe outline the technology you're going to use and then give the actual legwork to the developers.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, my experience has kind of been the same where the software developers I've worked with generally just deal with like the application related issues, whereas as software engineers, they do, almost full stack, front end, back end, and like do all of the things that are related to the app. Architect wise, they think from a scalability, like, hey, how do we, move this app, from a single console, how do we scale this now to be, on multiple different OSs and things like that. But that's been my experience, but I've not been in your shoes, so I didn't want to say that and be like, hey, I don't know.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I don't want to speak for you guys.
I'm thinking, like, I don't think there's an actual software architect role where I work. We just have like the senior staff engineers, and like there's no delineation between developer and engineer. It's just like software engineer. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Okay.
And
so
then
you
the
guys,
managers.
you follow like have you been on levels FYI?
Yeah.
Okay, so you follow that sort of trend. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Cool. Does that motivate you when you see like the?
Yes, it does. It does. I was actually talking to a buddy the other day. He's not a software engineer, but he's in tech, network engineer.
Yeah.
Like he told me his salary. That gave me some motivation. Cause it's like 100K plus, and he's so young.
Yeah.
But yeah, those numbers do motivate me, and I'm actively trying to get better.
Yes, nice, man. Okay, so you did the 2 hackathons, and your last hackathon was in your senior year?
That was we went back the senior year, but like we didn't win that year, so we didn't place. Actually, I don't think we submitted anything. I don't think we had any ideas, but it was probably my junior year and the year before I go into it, so like sophomore-esque.
Gotcha. Okay, so walk me through like what graduating look like for you, like getting a job and all that jazz?
Graduating and getting a job looked like for me, I was very active in clubs, and I still encourage it to this day. You should be active in clubs. If you go to school on campus and you're not using that network, you're basically wasting your money.
Yeah.
So I was active in clubs. One club I was in was the National Society of Black Engineers.
Nice.
I love that club. It's the reason I have a job today. So they have a national convention, and I knew my senior year, like they went last year, so they went my junior year, but I didn't go because I wasn't that knowledgeable on it, or I didn't know the value. And then I saw people coming back with jobs. I'm like, hold on, I need me a job. So I was like, next year, parents, I need to go here.
Yeah.
And they were there to support me, and they paid for my ticket to go to Kansas City.
Okay.
And we went to Kansas City around March or February of my senior year.
Okay.
And I was graduating that May. And I went out to Kansas City, and it was a big job fair, tons of companies.
Yeah.
And I submitted my resume through the portal, and companies reached out to me for interviews. So as soon as I got there, I literally had interviews lined up. I did go talk to some companies around, but that's not where I ended up getting my job. And then, so probably about 2 months after that conference, I ended up having about at least 4 offers for a software engineer. And it was just at my disposal to pick which one I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And I ended up picking Lockheed Martin in Marietta.
Nice, bro. And I think what you said is like a gem. I think for individuals who are in school, if you're not participating with a group, club, or anything like that, I think you're wasting your time. Even for me, when I was like in the healthcare field, there's different clubs and groups that I participated in that helped promote me and get me into different networks I never had the opportunity to. So I strongly encourage that. It's funny you brought that up, Nasby, because there was a engineer from I think Nigeria. He had gotten some scholarship or something like that to come here, and immediately that was one of the first groups he participated with, and he ended up getting a job after. So strongly recommend folks looking at NASB, man.
For sure. Still to this day, I'm networking in at tech events. Like I go to paid tech events or free tech events, and you never know who you might meet, literally. Yeah. So
yeah, I think it's funny because I was watching an event by Tech is the New Black. So shout out Cyrus and the things you guys are doing there. And I think you asked the question. I was like, bro, that's Keyshawn right there, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I love the fact that, you're exposing yourself out there more and then kind of networking and bridging, man. So that's good.
For sure. Really, from my perspective, I see it as like, this may be a little bit contentious, but there are, at my place of work, there are a lot of Georgia Tech grads. So like Georgia Tech is like one of the top public schools. Yeah. So they have that network, and not to say that my school is bad, but I believe I have to make up for it in some other area because that's not where I'm the highest in. Right. So that's kind of also why I love to go outside, beat them on the network, and because once you graduate college, people don't really they don't put that much work. You get a job and you're just chilling. Right. So for sure, I feel like I'm gonna beat them in the network area.
Right.
So,
and then this may also be contentious, but I don't care at this point. Being a young Black African American, you have to do a little bit more sometimes to be able to kind of get your foot in the door as well. So, that's something I think we got to realize that if you got to work a little bit more, do what you got to do to get your foot in the door. So, to me, taking that extra step is a necessity at this point. So.
And I try and do it with a smile too, because I mean it's my life,
right?
Yeah. So
yeah, man, cool. Okay, so from doing like hackathons and kind of like freelance type stuff to like getting your first job, like how did that shift like your perspective, like on what software engineering was going to be like when you started?
So being more in the industry. It's a lot. I'm trying to think. It's just a lot of areas. That's kind of what I started to realize, especially at a big company. Yeah. There's a lot of areas. There's a lot of moving pieces, and I hear a lot of people talk about, you may be an engineer at some big company, but you may play this very small role. That is a real reality. And that's kind of what I faced. Like my work isn't super critical.
Yeah.
For example, my team is responsible for efficiency of other teams. So other employees are my customers. Yeah. And we make internal tools for them.
Gotcha.
So, I find that I like the tool that we make, but in the grand scale of things, it's not that important. Yeah. But, it's important to our area. So that's one thing I've learned, that thing is true. That's true.
Okay. I've worked on operations teams before as well. And I do agree that, I would say that from a value add standpoint, from my experience, generally operations internally, you're one of the last folks to go because you notice when things go bad. Like for instance, if you have like an external facing tool another company may use, the only way they know about the bugs and issues is like the internal team creates like issues that tell them what the issues are. And then they create tickets off of that. So every team that I've been on from an operational perspective, like we were one of the last to ever be touched when it comes to like layoffs and stuff like that. But
that's
unfortunately, it's really good. That's what I'm saying. So that's what I was going to encourage. Like it's really good where you're at because you provide a lot of value because if systems go down, you need ways to report on those systems because that's at the end of the day, that's money because you're providing a lot of value because you're protecting, your external stakeholders and things like that. And I don't know if you guys track bugs and stuff like that from different programs. Is that part of your?
Yeah, we support other teams.
Yeah.
So literally, yeah, we support other teams. That's all I'm
Okay.
gonna say.
So those bugs may be, that's kind of where it delves into my area where it comes to like cybersecurity, where there's a bug that exposes some sort of endpoint that it wasn't supposed to expose, and then all of a sudden it's like, damn, we're getting sued for millions of dollars. So just to encourage you, man, your work is important, bro.
For
It's very
sure. Thank you
important,
for
man.
that.
Yeah, you're welcome, man. Okay, so you realize that you have like a certain role to play, and then you're playing that role, and this might get a little bit contentious or controversial, and you don't have to answer this if you don't want. But um, recently there was a young lady, I think a young Moroccan um, AI specialist for Microsoft, and then she ended up protesting because of the um, I guess the software they were building. That I think she felt as if like that was being used to aid the Israeli military to do whatever. So from a um, ethical standpoint, have you ever had to think, or have you ever thought about what I'm building? Does it actually help, to do some things that are not so nice in the world?
For sure. I get this in my comments. Like when I say where I work, they're
Yeah,
like, "Hey, your company is supporting killing kids in Gaza." So in terms of me thinking of the ethical dilemma, I mean, like I was saying, my work doesn't directly support
right.
the product.
Yeah,
And I would also say I don't feel bad at all. I'm not gonna say that. I don't feel bad at all. And then number two, the plane that like our area of work produces is like a cargo plane.
gotcha. Yeah,
So it doesn't have any weapons
yeah,
or anything.
yeah,
And then thirdly, if a mechanical engineer models a gun and for a company and a company goes and sells that gun and then a consumer buys it and shoots someone,
yeah.
that mechanical engineer did not kill
Right.
anyone.
Yeah,
So I don't feel bad at all. And, it's just unfortunate. It's just the way of life. I got to get this bread. I'm
yeah,
a hardworking American.
yeah, yeah. I think a lot of times we
Like
forget
that.
that there's no implicit responsibility on the individual that created the technology. It's more so on the individual that utilized it. I know that can get in gray areas, but with what you do, I strongly encourage and I think I support fully what you're doing, bro. So, um, and the reason I bring that up is because from the engineering perspective, for those in the tech areas, um, you have to think about that because the solutions that you build could have direct impact on individuals, and then it could end up causing some harm. But you also have to think about yourself personally, like how are you going to provide livelihood for yourself, and how you can make the delineation between um, the work you do versus the individuals who utilize the tools, applications, and systems that are built and what they utilize it for. You know, you heard the whole adage, guns don't kill people, people kill people. So yeah,
So let me ask you this. If you worked, so let's say you made a software that is responsible for killing people. So let's say like we're gonna just call it F-35
mm-hmm.
and you make a software that targets people.
Mm-hmm.
Would you feel bad then?
I wouldn't. Just me personally, I wouldn't.
Fair
Yeah,
enough.
yeah, yeah. Just because that's a personal conviction of mine that I wouldn't be able to do it, but others might. I just wouldn't be able to do it myself personally.
When you
Yeah,
say you wouldn't be able to do it, you wouldn't be able to make the software, or
I
you?
wouldn't want to do it.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay, I see,
yeah,
I see.
yeah. I wouldn't want to do it. Yeah,
Fair
yeah,
enough, fair
yeah,
enough.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. What about you?
Um, I mean, if I have another option, I may not pick it first.
Yeah,
But if they're like, hey, here's, X amount of money or, a promotion with this,
yeah,
hey,
yeah,
I'd probably do it.
yeah. And I think that's the beauty of like options, right? And beauty of like opinions. I think people have sort of what convicts them and what doesn't. So I think that's totally fine. So cool, man. All right. So software engineering, you make apps, and did you ever do anything else that outside of the hackathon, like from a self like creation standpoint? Like, hey, I want to build this on my own.
Oh yeah, I'm a project person. I love
Okay.
projects.
Okay.
My resume is filled with them. So one thing I actually encourage to young computer science majors or anyone that wants to be a software engineer is to solve so they struggle with like, hey, what project do I want to do? One way you could do this is to solve a real problem.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, if you have you heard of Discord?
Yeah.
Discord, yeah. Okay. So Discord, you can make bots. So I have a Discord channel with my friends, and I noticed a problem when I joined the Discord. None of my friends knew I was there. I'd be like, join the Discord. And they're like, I didn't know you were there. So I realized that you can create a bot, and I made a bot that informs users of the Discord that someone joined, that XYZ person has joined.
Yep.
So one thing I try and do is solve real problems and make it into a project. It's fun. Another project I'm considering, I haven't started yet, but my friend, he challenged me to a push-up contest.
Okay.
And I'm all about fitness too as well.
Yeah.
But more so tech though. And I'm gonna make a AI push-up counter, so it's gonna count on screen and it's gonna track your movements.
Okay.
And this is how you can solve real problems and make cool projects. It's fun too.
Yeah. And not only that, you get to learn too. I think that to me is the important piece of it. Like when I was getting tech, I'm a Splunk guy, so we used to like have to monitor like data points from wherever it's coming from. There were guys that were monitoring like their fish tanks, so monitoring like how much gas was being used, and they streamed that stuff out using. Back in the day, we had a Raspberry, like the old school Raspberry, not like 4 or whatever they have now. But there are ways to grab that data and then spit it out and then syslog that stuff out. So, but you learn a lot of this stuff by doing it and then trying. So,
for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. Also, I read, so when I was in school, data structures and algorithms, a class that many computer science majors know is like one of the hardest classes. But it wasn't an hardest class for me, but I still did struggle. So let me explain this. When I got to data structures and algorithms, I had learned most of my programming skills in Java, and I got to data structures and algorithms, and they switched it on us. They may not do this anymore, but they switched it to C++.
Okay.
And I struggled, and I ended up withdrawing without failing. So I took that, and I'm like, I don't have time for this. So I took the summer to go read a data structures and algorithms book, a fat textbook just explaining data structures and algorithms.
Yeah.
And it had practice problems at the end. And that really gave me a good foundation for even future technical interviews.
Right.
So, there was self conviction in my computer science journey.
Nice. And I think even on top of that, there's also doubt. There's also a bit of failure, depending on how you look at it. But you use that to kind of motivate you to learn more and to actually practice. And you picked up the subject by practicing and doing like hands-on, which is kind of the way I learned too. Like I can't watch something and learn. I got to actually do something.
For sure.
So I think a lot of folks who have tried to get into tech and have like not done well, all of us have faced challenging subjects and challenging things in the past. It's just a matter of like pushing through that, So I'm glad you bring up that story, because a lot of people may watch it like, oh, Keyshawn and Saw, they're so smart, they don't know anything. It's like, no, we struggle through a lot of things. It's just a matter of like literally like persevering through those struggles and figuring out the ways you best learn and then applying that, So,
for sure. I felt, I hate to say this out loud, but it's I'm here today. So
yeah.
I felt discrete math as well. I still graduated in 4 years with a computer science degree as well. So I was pushing. I failed discrete math, and that's actually the only class I actually failed, but I withdrew without failing other classes. So that just adds to the summer load that I had to take. So
but here you are, bro.
Here I am.
Doing good, man. So,
trials and tribulations.
100. Cool, man. So, all right. So you're at Lockheed now. What are the next steps for you? Like, what are you thinking, like future-wise for you?
That's a great question. So, really, right now, I'm getting my master's in cybersecurity. I don't know if you've heard of Big Papa Code.
Yeah. Arthur. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Arthur.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I remember one time I went to Cyrus's event
Mhm.
and I met him there, and I was asking him, should I go back to school? Like the company will pay for it. And then he was like, and I was telling him, I was like, I'm thinking about doing social media, and he's kind of like, I mean, it ended up me doing both, and he's kind of like, hey, if someone's gonna pay for your education,
Right.
you're kind of being just lazy if you don't want to go do it.
Take it. Yeah.
So yeah, that kind of inspired me to go through with it. So right now I'm thinking, level up. I need to get to another promotion as a software engineer. So
Okay.
level up there, and then continue school, and then transition to I'll probably stay in defense for a minute because I have a clearance, so I feel like I might as well put it to use.
Yeah.
I want to do a cyber software engineer role. They have that role at Lockheed, so that's kind of the next thing I'm looking towards. But I'm also open to, I meet a lot of people when I go to network. So if I meet someone that works at Google and they can tap me in, I'm like, yeah.
Yeah.
So
No, I hear that, man. When it comes to like clearance, because that's actually a really good point, like GovCon type stuff, with sort of like the imbalances we've had this year. Were you ever worried in terms of like, either losing your position or did you see coworkers like, being let go?
So in terms of layoffs, no, not at Lockheed. No, that's one of the reasons I picked a defense contractor to work at, because it was more safe.
Yeah.
They have these contracts.
Yeah.
So what I can tell you that I've seen is, top down level, trickle down. So being that we work with the government, we had to come all the way back in office. I'm not going to say it was solely because of the administration.
Yeah.
But I do believe it played a factor.
Yeah.
So that's one thing that I've seen as things have changed.
Gotcha. Is it 5 days now?
No, we work 4/10, so 4 days a week, 10 hours a day, and we have Fridays off. I'm not gonna lie, I do love that Friday off. It's the 3-day weekend every weekend, so
Gotcha.
yeah.
Gotcha. Cool, man. What's your commute like to work?
It was like an hour and 20 or so, but I moved closer recently, like within the last 2.5 weeks, and now it's about 20 minutes.
Gotcha.
So not too bad.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. And then one last question on the clearance piece, because some people don't really understand this part, but I think I saw a post you made too about like when you have a clearance, like declaring where you're going, what you're doing, and things like that. Can you talk a bit about that?
Yeah. So, all right. I'm gonna be transparent. When I came to Lockheed, I didn't know what they did for real. Not gonna lie. And I didn't realize I was gonna get a clearance. But prior after getting hired, I realized what that is. So a clearance, you can only get them if you like work with some classified work, or like the government is basically a government contractor. My bad, the company is a government contractor, and it costs about $3,000 to $15,000 to clear a person, and then from there you can have a secret clearance. You can get access to work on certain classified projects depending on your level. And one thing I've also realized as well, that you have a lot more restrictions on yourself. So clearance is federal, so you are subject to federal law. So that means if you are in California and weed is legal there, but you have a clearance, you cannot smoke weed. What else? If you leave the country, you have to declare it and let the company know, or like kind of who's in charge of the clearance. So for example, I'm planning on going to Vietnam in February of next year. I'm gonna have to let them know, and there's certain countries I can't go to, so yeah.
No, I was actually going to bring up that last point. You literally mandated, because I have a TS, you literally mandated to stay within certain areas, and there's certain places you just can't go regardless of like, oh yeah, but I'm only going to be doing snow. It doesn't matter. So
let me ask you a question. What did you learn about the clearance, and what did I miss? Because you may know even more, because I haven't even used it for real.
So I got my top secret when I was in the military. Actually, was a reserves soldier at the time. So the funny thing is, I was a cook in the military, but then I started like learning about Splunk, Linux, and stuff like that. And one of the colonels at the time was like, "Hey, I used Splunk on the civilian side because he also had like a civilian job, whatever that he was doing. Well, I don't know if he's not a civilian, but he was doing civilian type work, um, and he ended up drafting me into like his office to kind of like help him with some like queries and things like that. So that's how I kind of got into that space. But then as I continued to um, advance my career and got more jobs that require the clearances, there's certain places I can go, and then there's certain like items I can bring with me. There's
Mm,
individuals I can talk to. You
mm.
can affiliate with like you can't go out of the country, and this might be a given for some of you, but you can go outside the country and work with certain government agencies, regardless of like whether it's a for good, for profit, like or nonprofit type work. There's certain things you just cannot do, regardless. So those are things that I've learned, and then from of course, I think you already know this as well. Um, your financial records that matter. So you can't just like screw up on your credit. Like you got to make sure your credit's on point.
Yeah.
If you owe like certain loans, things like that, and you're not paying back on things, that can get your clearance repealed very quickly. And then similarly, if you are affiliated with like felons, things like that, those relationships have to cut off. Like they have to cease immediately. So those are things that I learned, going through that process as well.
Have you had to take a polygraph test?
Nah, yeah, not full scope though. Yeah,
I
yeah,
know for some roles at my company, if I like apply and go higher, I'm gonna have to take a polygraph. At
yeah,
least that's what it says in there.
yeah.
So
And then you probably already know this as well, but for the viewers who may not, it's $50,000 plus when it comes to getting like a TS and then full scope as well. So that adds on top of your pay. So when you're looking for, I see you smile a little bit underneath. When you're looking for jobs that are looking for cleared roles, um, that salary band increases exponentially, and it's not just working directly for a government contractor. So like Google, some of these other like companies, they work directly with the government. They have, I forget what it's called. Why am I blanking? FedRAMP. So there's certain environments that have to be FedRAMP, which basically means that the government is authorized for you to do these things because it's cleared. So AWS has a FedRAMP in mind. I think GCP does now. Don't quote me on that. I think Azure definitely does. So they're authorized to be able to host certain infrastructure that the government has in whatever space that they're in. So because of that, oh, keep going. Or stop. So because of that, it's important that individuals um, uh, know that they're going to get paid a lot more, because if you go for a company, or if you go work or try to work for Microsoft, Google, or AWS, and you're asking for the same salary band that somebody doesn't have a clearance, you're cheating yourself out. That could be 50,000 plus, because
that's
the
a
government,
game.
yeah, because the government's paying them that money to be able to um, maintain those facilities. So they're getting paid millions of dollars to maintain those facilities. So some of those millions goes into your pockets, not necessarily millions, but you get the drift there.
Yeah, I
So
actually saw a Microsoft role with like you had to have a clearance
yeah,
to apply,
yeah,
or so. Yeah, that's game to me. I didn't know
yeah.
how much. Okay,
Last couple of tidbits here, bro. So this is getting more in the personal realm. You dating?
of course.
Of course. Okay. What does that look like for you in terms of like long term? You want a
Uh
tech bay, or you want just any bay?
oh, so a
Got to
tech
set up for
bay.
this.
Since I go to a lot of tech events, I
Yeah.
do catch women in tech
Yeah.
at a higher rate than other women.
Mhm.
But I wouldn't say I'm looking for a tech bay, but it's just like engineers are kind of like they're firm in their ways.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I wouldn't say I'm looking for a tech bay. I probably look for like a nurse or like
You were more traditional.
yeah,
Okay.
something like that. But I won't turn it down, no. And I do have like women that I talk to that, are in software engineering. So
Okay. Okay.
yeah. Did that answer your question?
You did. You did. So anyone, I mean, we don't do like pop the balloon Africans in textile.
Mhm.
But yeah, man. Okay. So what do you see yourself in like 10 years, like long term?
Relationship wise or tech wise?
Relationship, family, and all that. Like,
Oh,
what do you
10
want?
years, I'll
Yeah.
be 33 years old. So I see myself, I need to like I probably I'm just going to say it. 10 years from now I should be making at least $200,000.
Nice.
I doubt I will have kids, but I'll probably be about to be in that season
Yeah.
where I have kids. And then I should, own my own property. And hopefully I continue with this. Whatever route I end up on is going to be a great path regardless.
Yeah.
So I don't know exactly what it's going to look like, but I know in terms of numbers, $200,000, and good physical condition, good health, and about to create a family.
Nice, nice,
So.
bro. Awesome. Definitely wish you all the success in the world and all the well wishes in that, man. So last thing, if people wanted to get in touch with you and just try to figure out how to link up with you in any ways, how can they do that?
Okay, so you can reach out on via Instagram, Tech Key, so TECHK3Y. I also have TikTok. You just go look in the link in bio, as well as you can reach out on my website. I have a product or a service where you can speak to me. You can talk about tech or whatever you want to talk about. So that's at techkey.com, TECHKEYY.com. And yeah.
All right. So for those of you who are looking for Keyshawn's information, wherever you're watching this at, whether it's Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, we'll have his information at the bottom of our handles there. So ping us if you have any additional questions at africansintechnology@gmail.com. Again, it's africansintechnology@gmail.com. My name is Sar Leby. This is Africans in Tech, where we're building bridges and shaping futures in tech. All right, fam.